for us, then we're going to stay on the issue then, and we bring in political analyst Solly Masilela to weigh in on that 13th ANC Mpumalanga elective conference. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Masilela. I hope that you can hear us clearly now. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Flo. Thank you very much. I can indeed hear you very clearly, and thanks for the opportunity.
You're most welcome, sir. Let's start by talking about where we ended off, myself and Samkela Maseko. We were talking about the issue of the divisions, and one of the things that President Cyril Ramaphosa said, and I'm sure you heard him while he was closing the provincial elective conference, he spoke about the fact that it seemed as though delegates had been divided going into the conference, and that they were in different groupings. And I raised the fact with Samkela Maseko that, it was quite interesting that the president seemed to say this in the past tense, as though, things are suddenly okay now that those that are elected have been congratulated and we've now moved. But is that, the reality? Is that the reality that, those who have lost will accept the new leadership and then they will then move on?
Indeed, Flo, indeed. Thank you very much. We'll have to wait and see, Flo, as to whether instantly an organization which has been intrinsically divided for the past 2 days before the conference, just only because of the spark of this conference, and they are now united. But I think the president is trying to conjure hope in terms of encouraging the members of the ANC to be united. I mean, when you go back, you will recall the talks, the spat which was flying towards this conference, and also the entrenchment of factionalism within the ANC itself, as Samuel has mentioned, that the focus group has swept the floor, and you have the Ngri, which is almost disseminated. Whether after this conference, will they be able to organize themselves in line with the principles of unity and rebuilding? We'll have to watch and see. Indeed, if that can happen, Flo, they'll have to work very hard towards that. Mark my word.
Yeah, I find it quite interesting, that you on one hand, we're talking about, and the president spoke about it, the issue of step aside, saying that, the ANC needs to show its seriousness when it comes to the step aside issue, but then also talking about, and you rightly talk about this, the issue of unity and rebuilding, but the two seem at odds. The issue of step aside and the issue of unity do seem at odds, because you find groupings who feel as though they are being cast aside by what is being termed the step aside issue, but at the same time we're talking about unity and rebuilding. So is there unity if you are sort of casting some of the ANC leadership aside using the step aside?
Let's flag out issues, Flo, currently existence, even before and even now after the elections. I haven't seen, we'll have to wait and see whether some of the MECs, members of the ANC who are holding critical positions in government, are they part, have they been elected back into the provincial executive committee or not? That on its own is going to be a bone of contention moving forward. No ordinary MEC will enjoy just being out of power, out of work instantly. And also, let's look at the issue of the step-aside rule. Mandla Msibi, who has been charged, facing serious charges in court for that matter, having been nominated by branches to be part of the top leadership of the ANC in Mpumalanga. That again, moving forward, as the president alluded to, will have to be addressed by the current leadership. And I don't see this current leadership, and indeed the entire ANC movement in Mpumalanga, being able to address that particular matter without it dividing themselves further. I mean, the rule, if you apply the rule, it's obvious there will be those who will feel really not advantaged by whatever decision you take. In this case, it will be Mandla Msibi. Also, you look in terms of saying, is this leadership a complement of the entire factions which was existent before this conference? Those are the issues, Flo, which I think the president is hopeful that probably there will be unity and and preaching that moving forward. As to whether that is achievable given the current scenario which is happening. Also taking into consideration, as I said earlier on, the issues, the language which was used towards this conference. Those issues, I don't think they will, but we need to credit the president because he confirmed that the issue of unity is a process. It will take some time, but it needs level-minded leaders who will approach it in a manner which is in line with the values and the principles of the ANC as a glorious movement yesterday, Flo.
Yeah, and then what was also interesting, the president speaks about what he considers to be the two main issues that are causing infighting, why leaders within the ANC fight each other. Those two issues, he said, are that of power and access to resources. He said those are the main things that people in the ANC are fighting over. Do you see it that way? Is it as simple as that? Is it just those two problems, the issue of power and access to resources? Can it be broken down into just those two sections?
You can ask yourself, Flo, I used to wonder why in ANC conferences, an organization which is taken and understood to be the People's Party, to be the leader of society, amongst itself when they're electing each other, you realize that after a person has been elected, in this case it will be the provincial chairperson, Mandla, there is ululation, is carried shoulder high, is taken to the podium, being carried shoulder high, whilst just next to him, there are those who are despondent. You can read the despondency amongst those who feel they've been defeated. And you can see even facially that there is this element of dissatisfaction and that on itself. Also, if I can add, Flo, I'm expecting a cabinet reshuffle in Mpumalanga, given the current leadership. I've heard the elected chairperson saying that there won't be any cabinet reshuffle in terms of. I think it's not going to be easy for him as the provincial chairperson to sustain the pressure which will come from those who elected him, those who are carrying him shoulder high towards the podium, and as well as those who are closer to him in terms of being members of the PEC, to sit down and observe members who are largely not even forming part of the leadership of the ANC in terms of the PEC, being members of the executive committee. The current premier, even though it seems like she will be coming back as an additional member of the PEC, but that she is not in the top 5. And being the premier, I think those challenges combined together, Flo, they indicate that there are huge challenges coming forward as far as uniting the ANC in the province. Perhaps it's a good start, and the president sees it that way, hence he's very, very optimistic about it.
All right, Tata Masilela, thanks very much for helping us unpack the goings-on in Mpumalanga. Many thanks to you. All right,
thank you very much, and much appreciated.
All right, that is I Solly Masilela, political analyst, weighing in on the 13th ANC Mpumalanga elective conference for us.